Hi, Dr. Armstrong.
Hi, Sam.
Thank you very much for joining me for this interview. Can you introduce a little about yourself?
I'm Dr. John Armstrong. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Communication Studies, and I've been at Furman University for 12 years.
Okay, can you tell me a little about your education background?
My education is that I have a bachelor's degree in history from Pomona College. I have a master's degree in journalism from the University of California at Berkeley. I also studied for part of 1 year as a Benton Broadcast Fellow at the University of Chicago, and I have a PhD in communication from the University of Utah.
Thank you very much. I'm interested in your college education in Pomona College because it's a top liberal arts college, and I want to ask about the teaching methods that teachers have over there, and how do you compare them to what we have here at Furman?
Well, I think, Sam, that since I graduated from Pomona in 1977, there's, I think, a big difference in the way I was instructed compared to how I'm teaching my students now at Furman. But I think that has more to do with the time difference, possibly, than with the difference in the schools, because I think in a lot of ways Furman and Pomona are similar and have similar approaches. When I was a history major as an undergraduate at Pomona, classes were mostly lecture-based, and there wasn't a lot of discussion from the students, and also there were very few audio-visual elements to the class. And now at Furman, at least in the classes I teach, we have all of those things. There's a lot of class discussion. There are more expectations about getting students involved in the class. There are certainly more audio-visual elements available, and that's particularly important in communication studies because we talk about the media, and I like to show examples of the media in class, so that happens a lot. But I would imagine that even in history, now at a college like Furman or Pomona, I would think that audiovisuals are more important now than they would have been in 1977. I also think it's an interesting philosophical question about student discussion, because I think I'm a big proponent of that, and I think it fits with the mission of this school, that it's not just about learning particular subject matter, although that's certainly important, but it's also learning how to think critically. And I think when we have discussions in class, I think that encourages students to do that. And I also think that some really important information can come from the students. And that may be sort of a newfangled way of thinking for some people and even for some students, but oftentimes what students say in the class can be really significant and can be something that I think should stay with other students. So again, not everybody would agree with that approach, but I think that's something that I've been enthusiastic about incorporating into my teaching.
Thank you very much. So you think that technology plays an important role in, helping students to learn and think, especially audio visual, as you said. So how have you stimulated students' discussion in class specifically?
Well, I think part of me is still a journalist, and I have this I worked for 14 years as a broadcast journalist, and I still have this sort of criterion that I want things to be interesting, because when you're in journalism, you're in the interest business. You want people to watch your show, you want people to read your story, so you really try to develop a sense of what gets people's attention. And not that should be the only criterion for teaching, but I think it can be helpful if you incorporate that into your teaching. And a lot of times I really try to show videos or use audio clips that I think will just get the students' attention. And I also like to use things that, not just in terms of audiovisual, but across the board, things that students can relate to, things that students can apply to their own lives, whenever possible. I mean, it's not always possible, certainly not always necessary, but I like to be able to have students relate it to their own everyday lives.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to ask about your expectations when you first came here, teaching at Furman University. So, did you expect that to be, like the student quality will be higher or lower, or anything that you wanna?
I expected the student quality at Furman to be very good when I came here, and it has turned out to be very good. So I've not been disappointed. But one thing that surprised me a little bit is that even though students here are very intelligent and usually very motivated, they're still undergraduate students. And when I first got here, I was coming out of graduate school. And the way graduate seminars are usually taught is that the students are given a reading, they come into the class, and they discuss it. There isn't a lot of lecturing. And I really tried to teach on that basis for my first semester here, and it really didn't work very well because the students needed some guidance with the readings. So I've learned to do that. Not that I want to tell them everything about the readings and just sort of give it to them on a silver platter, but undergraduate students do need some assistance with understanding, and they need some context for readings. You can't just sort of, throw them the ball and expect them to play the game all by themselves. You need to work with them a little more closely than you would with graduate students.
That's a really, really good point. Thank you very much. So I want to, when you, in our media history class, you mentioned a break, like a 4-minute break between the two sessions of the class, and I think it's really good because it helps us to focus more and it helps our mentality also. So I want to ask about, have you ever thought about, maybe allowing students to stand up or do some interactive activities in class in order for them to, be interactive with teachers and be more, focus on class better and feel more interested in class? What do you think?
I haven't applied that to that extent, but I think that's a really interesting idea. My thought with the break in the classes, and I do this, just as some background, what you're referring to, Sam, is the fact that in my hour and 15-minute classes, I usually take about a 4-minute break in the middle of the class, and I let the students get up and walk around if they choose to, although they can also sit at their desks if they want to do that too. I haven't quite gotten to the point where I have them get up and do exercise or anything, although I would like to see them do that, because I think that would help as well. But I do this because I think there's some empirical data, but I also think just from personal observation of sitting in classes myself that I think your mind really starts to wander after about 45 minutes or so. So I don't think students can maintain their attention levels for anything over that. So that's why I break it up. But anyway, I think that's a really interesting suggestion about incorporating some sort of physical movement into learning, because I think there could be a lot to be said for that. And if you can somehow work it into the curriculum, I think that would be great. I mean, I think that could be the next maybe the next frontier in learning theory. I saw a very interesting presentation a few years ago from some freshman students whom I knew who were in a biology class, and they made a video for the class where they gave a physical demonstration using their own bodies and their own body movement to demonstrate a particular cellular process. And I thought it was really well done and informative, and I think the students learned a lot from it. So I think whenever we can incorporate techniques like that, I think it could be very fruitful.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Because the reason why I brought up that suggestion is because I'm in the organization which promotes the use of some innovative technology in class and different classroom designs. For example, we use sticky notes for studying a lot, and we use physical movements. We use bean bags for study even, and movable walls and things like that. So it had been experimented in the UK, and it proved a really good result. And so do you plan to adding some new and innovative methods, for example, like what I just suggested?
Yeah, I would like to, and I I tend to just kind of keep my ears open, and when I hear about something new that I think makes sense and that works, I kind of adopt it. I know one of the things I do in class, in all my classes, is have discussion questions that the students write. And I picked this up from another professor here at Furman who told me about it, and I just thought it sounded like a good idea, and I've done it ever since. So I am looking for ways to modify my classes, and my classes have changed over the years, and I hope I do keep changing them. I think it is important to experiment and try new methods, and sometimes my methods don't work. And I've done things that really, really fell flat, and I've dropped them. But you do have to experiment. And I think the thing to remember about that is that in terms of teaching methods, we're really trying to hit a moving target, because I think students change, student sense of perception and learning changes, because the culture changes, because technology changes, and students have different learning styles than they did when I was in college. And I suspect 20 or 30 years from now, students may have different learning styles as well, and we'll need to adapt to that. So I think we're going to have to continue to experiment and adapt. It's almost like evolution, where you're always adapting to a changing world, and it's not just a case of arriving at a certain place where everything is good and will never need to change.
Yes, I'd agree. Well, we need to keep our mind open and keep adapting new ideas, like you said. And thank you for being so open-minded about that. And thank you for the interview in overall. It's been really good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Sam, and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.